to a very cozy corner of the internet. I'm August, this is Cozy Rosie Reads, where we talk about thrifted books, used books, translated books, anything funky, surreal, and weird. That is my favorite type of literature to read. We have a new addition to my home, which is this beautiful electric fireplace. As you saw in the montage, I went up north to visit my family. They recently moved, my parents, and they live in the beautiful up north woods of Michigan. And we did a belated Christmas gathering, and they graciously gifted me an electric fireplace, and I have some books in it, and I think I'm gonna separate on the top. My heart. Do you hear Winston? Winston is... There he is! There's Winston! My sweet little man. But I think I'm gonna separate in future videos. I feel like this is like my favorite corner of my house. Like these built-in bookshelves, the print, everything. Like this brings me so much joy right here. It is so comforting. And I think I'm gonna separate these shelves with like the books that I read each month versus the ones I would like to read. So it's kind of like a little TBR shelf maybe. So I had a lovely time up north. It was so wonderful. It was very short, but it was fabulous. If you watched my last vlog, I did talk about all the upcoming travel I have in the next few weeks, really. Tomorrow I'm heading off to Chicago. I'm gonna go there to visit a friend, but also go see a concert, and then a few days later I'll be heading to Toronto to go to a concert and hopefully see an old friend. I used to live in Toronto. I went to art school there, so I haven't been back in many years. Sorry if the audio was weird there. My heat was on and I totally forgot about it until it just shut off. I hope y'all are doing really well. Thank you so incredibly much for being here. I wanted to start a vlog to take you along with my travels. I don't know if I'll be reading a whole lot while I'm away because each trip is just kind of like a little over 24 hours in each city, but I thought it would be a fun time to vlog and kind of make a little compilation video of some travels. What I'm currently reading, my friends, as you probably saw, is The Blind Owl by Sadegh Hedayat. And this is translated by D.P. Costello. I'm not exactly sure on the pronunciation of the name. I'll have to look into it. This is a fever dream. This is a surrealist nightmare. It was originally published in 1957, and the back does compare it to Edgar Allan Poe. Hedayat is the Iranian Edgar Allan Poe. And yes, but also while reading the first little bit of it, when I first started getting into it, and the writing style, the cadence, the descriptions, the darkness of it, the eeriness of it, the despair of it feels a lot like a mix of The Hermit by Eugene Ionesco mixed with Dreams of a Ridiculous Man by Dostoevsky, and of course The Stranger by Camus. So imagine, just imagine what that feels like, what that energy is. It is dreary. Oh goodness. I think he's grumpy that it's pretty early in the evening and I've already put him in his sweater, but it's a little chilly, so I'm trying to be a good parent. We're following our unnamed male protagonist. What really struck me in this novel when I first opened it, before I even bought it at a used bookstore, is the first 3 pages, which I have now probably reread, actually 4 pages, I probably reread now 7 times because it's so beautiful. There are sores which slowly erode the mind in solitude like a kind of canker. It is impossible to convey a just idea of the agony which this disease can inflict. Talking about loneliness, solitude. The reason for this incomprehension is that mankind has not yet discovered a cure for this disease. Relief from it is to be found only in the oblivion brought about by wine. After a certain point, instead of alleviating the pain, they only intensify it. And it is just so beautifully written. I'm annotating a lot. It is so gorgeous. And then we hop into the story and we're following this unnamed male narrator. He's a painter. He always paints the same image. It's of an old man by a cypress tree with a young woman handing him a flower. And this repetitive motif of those 2 characters gets freakier and freakier. It starts out as this like dreary, I'm lonely, I'm in despair, I'm an artist, and it feels very gothic and sad and like, okay, we've heard this narrative before, what's gonna happen? And it's this descent into madness. It is spiraling. It is repetitive sentences. Our character is saying the same things over and over, and it feels like this tangible, palpable madness, quote unquote. Like it is just we're thrown into this whirlpool of not knowing what is real at all. What is actually happening? We have no idea. And I love that. I absolutely love that there is no justifying itself. There's no defending what this is. There's no outright, let's have a conversation about the symbolism. It is like, nope, this is just what it is. So the main plot on the back of the book describes it as a man's descent into madness, basically, as he grapples with the loss of the love of his life. Simple enough, right? A tale as old as time. But what's interesting is that when he first meets this woman, it's through a portal or like a window in a place in his house, basically like a pantry or a cupboard that does not exist. There is no window, but he sees her on the outside as if he's viewing her. Spends 2 months looking for her, cannot find her anywhere. It's not a real person in his village. He doesn't know who she really is, but he's immediately intoxicated by her beauty. But he doesn't even want to be around her physically. It's like this energetic connection. And there's a beautiful line in here that says, isn't it true that lovers upon meeting each other know that they've known each other in every lifetime? And it is just so beautiful when he is kind of giving up hope and is going into this opium-induced delirium from his sadness and grief. The woman shows up on his doorstep. I don't want to give away too much, but I was shocked. If you've read this, the following scenes, I was shocked. And then the book continues, and then you're just more shocked as to what happened. He did things purposefully, he did things knowingly, but did he? But did he know? And these motifs of this old man comes back as like a real character, a real quote unquote person in his life who's a grave digger, and then he just gets swept away into this land and then keeps seeing the motifs. And then we start going into a backstory that he was married, but his wife is really the woman he sees in the motifs he keeps painting. Her father is the old man. Every person that we're introduced to, even vaguely, even in his like nightmares, is a representation of the drawing that he keeps making. The reality that he keeps creating through these paintings is every person in his life, is every nightmare he experiences, and we don't know what's real. So I'm currently 84 pages through. I'm more than halfway. This book is only 130 pages. I really want to finish it, but it is also incredibly disturbing, like incredibly so. There are very vague references in here, but references nonetheless to SA and worse. So even if you don't like the conversation of, especially from a POV of a perpetrator, sneaking quote unquote into bed with somebody or anything very violating in that sense, like it is very off-putting. It's brief and it's vague and it's teetered around, but regardless, it's very uncomfortable and very unsettling to read. None of these characters have names, and he calls his wife or his ex-wife the B word, just over and over and over again. So there are things in this that are just like, okay, we've got an angry, sad, depressed person who feels like an alien on this planet, does not understand humanity, does not understand humankind, is too sensitive of a soul, but still does heinous things, and is maybe overall just a very unlikable person, but is experiencing something that I feel is so human, which is feeling so lonely, feeling so disconnected, feeling like the only constant in your life is suffering. It's just very dark, and it's the mood of this room. It's the mood of this winter season. It's just deliciously dark and morbid and grotesque, and I love how unapologetically surreal it is. I love that it's not offering an explanation, and we don't need explanation. Sometimes explanation kills art. I'm a big fan of that. That was actually circling back in the whole conversation. What a lot of my art university days were about was about how explanation kills art and over symbolism is meaningless. And it's okay to make things that have no meaning. You can just rip into this book with as many ideas and concepts and symbols and metaphors as you can possibly think. You can put whatever meaning you want onto it. I think the part that I'm at right now, I did have a few pages back some annotations that I really loved. Particularly, I had always been in a state of decomposition and gradual disintegration. I was a crumbling, decomposing mass. It seemed to me that this was what I had always been and always would be, a strange compound of incompatible elements. Sir, you are speaking to me. That is what I feel so often. I feel that so often. And it's books like this that are so disturbing, but then you see a piece of yourself in it, or a feeling that you don't even know how to articulate, and it's articulated so disgustingly beautiful. and it's just fantastic. I absolutely love it. Such a big fan. Such a big fan of short books, of weird little things that I find and I pick up, especially from an Iranian author. I have not read many Iranian pieces, so very grateful for that. As of filming this, I have just 20 minutes ago finished an audiobook, and it is now time for me to find another, so I'll have to keep you updated on what I find there. Thank you so incredibly much for being here. I hope you can get really cozy and enjoy reading. So that's enough rambling from me. I will check in with you all very soon. Good morning, friends. Please disregard my disheveled appearance. I got back from Chicago yesterday, and what a whirlwind. I didn't vlog a whole lot because it was just so jam-packed. Here, I'm editing. It's a work from home day. It's very cozy, and I am telling you that I finished The Blind Owl. My thoughts are a little bit more underwhelming than when I started this vlog. Once we hit that part that I was telling you about of kind of going back in time, or it appears we're going back in time to our main protagonist's life about being married and the ailments, the mental ailments that he's going through of being incredibly depressed and filled with despair and grief and sadness, and what even is existence and what does it even mean, and all of these things, I started to not like it as much because our character was actively not doing anything. It was just lamenting in his bed about how miserable he is and how awful life is, and there's no action. There's no going places or creating things or even just moving, everything is very, very internal, which sometimes I really enjoy in novels. I like a lot of self-reflection and I like an insight into characters' head spaces, but this one was just so agonizing, which, well done by the author. I'm pretty sure that's the point. I would be remiss to say that, like, it was done really well. We are in this horrible place in this novel of following this character who oscillates constantly between I hate everyone sucks, versus like I just need the tender loving touch of my B word, the wife, and like I need to be loved, but everyone is horrible. And same. I mean, it was a very familiar feeling to be in that dichotomy of like, I'm so scared of people and they suck and the ordinary man is a horrible person and humanity is awful and cruel, but also I still have emotional needs. I still want tenderness and I want to be adored, but in order to do that, you have to interact with people, and like, but people are the worst. And those are the two ingredients that create isolation and lack of connection. So it makes sense. But overall, the ending of the book, like, it does continue to use the same words. The biggest one is being like the stub bitter end of a cucumber. That is, if I had a drinking game, if I had a tally of how many times certain phrases were used over and over again, oh my gosh, it is just so much. I did annotate this little line on page 99. It says, "What comforted me was the prospect of oblivion after death. The thought of an afterlife frightened and fatigued me. I had never been able to adapt myself to the world in which I was now living. Of what use would another world be to me? I felt that this world had not been made for me." Relatable existential thoughts about humanity, am I right? We keep seeing the old man, we keep seeing the young woman, but again, they are all different characters in his life. They represent different people, different ideas, and then he gets confused as to like, I know I've seen this before, it feels familiar, but I don't remember where it's from, but it's something we had read earlier, so it's like either this is all just delirium, or it really is forgetfulness, or we don't have an actual chronological timeline of when these events are happening. Like to me, it felt like we went back in time to when he was married and is talking about his woes with that. But also at the same time, it feels like it is just one piece of string that's just like looping in on itself, and it's not actually congruent, and it's not really in a chronological timeline. So very interesting. It didn't linger with me at all, I will say. I closed the book and I was like, okay, that was it, that's done. I don't really know what else to say there, and yeah, so there's that book. I mean, I recommend it if you're interested and want to read something a little weird and bizarre, but overall, after the first maybe, I don't know, I want to say like 50 pages, I didn't really get a whole lot out of it. I didn't have any like new ideas brought to me. It felt kind of repetitive in the sense of like, you know, the first 50 pages or so being so eye-opening of despair and discomfort and isolation and what it means to desire things. Maybe it's just not attainable to receive the kind of love that you want or need. I'm not sure. I think my heat just kicked on, so I'm sorry if the audio gets a little weird here. But yeah, overall, like, I think it just, after that, it just became a little repetitive. He's just lamenting, he's just miserable, and that's kind of it. So that's that. I mean, yeah, I recommend it if you're interested, but I don't know if this will linger with me. But I'm gonna hang on to it because the annotations are just so scrumptious to me. The things that impacted me really impacted me. The things that didn't, it's whatever. So there's that. So the book I picked up last night and started reading is The Unfinished Novel and Other Stories by Valerie Martin. And this is a collection of short stories all about artists. And yep, there's my heat. I'm sorry, friends. The first story, so I'm already on page 32 and the start of the second story called The Bower. But the first story is called His Blue Period. And it is about a freaking insipid artist. Like, he is just awful, very egotistical, very frustrating, a very arrogant character. He is our main character, but we're reading from the perspective of his friend John. I think his name is John. I'm not gonna be able to find it because it's first person narrative, but the perspective that we're reading from John, he is in love with this awful artist's girlfriend. He doesn't understand why his girlfriend Maria is even dating him, and the other artist is named Anspatch. And Anspatch discovers a color. He creates this blue color that starts to take over his paintings. They're all starving artists, they're all struggling artists. Something happens with his girlfriend Maria, and it is awful and sad, and he just treats her like shit, and it's so bad. So it feels very insular. It's very reminiscent to me of the feeling of A Little Life, of like all these young men struggling through poverty, wanting to make art, wanting to make a name for themselves in just 30 pages. The first story was only 29 pages, and I thought it was so well done. I really enjoyed it. I flew through it. I opened the book and I just didn't put it down, which I think is amazing. So I'm really, really excited to continue reading. So, joke's on me, because I was planning on doing like a little montage, having some little music before my next update, but I read so much. I am now on page 138. I am in I think this is the second to last or the third to last story, which is the title of the book, The Unfinished Novel. This is so engrossing. I open it, I get lost. The writing style is so accessible and beautiful, and it is so cinematic. I can see all of these characters in my head. It is truly so well done. What a wonderful collection of stories. After the second one, The Bower, oh my gosh, I gasped. I had to pause. I had to take a breathing break. This is full of tragedy. These are tragic stories, and their connections to the art world are so realistic. Not only are we following artists, we're also following artists through like a trajectory of their career or little snapshots of it. We're following people who have so much promise and so much talent, and then it's wasted, or something happens in their life where they're no longer able to perform or create art. It is so devastating and so real and so sad. It is unbearable. This feels like the epitome of the starving artist. What will you do to create your craft? How much would you sacrifice to continue creating? How much are you willing to give up? Or what things in your life would deter you from creating? Like, what limit do you have to hit where you no longer can create anymore? These characters feel so fleshed out and so real. And we're only with them for 20 to 50 pages. This unfinished novel story is a little bit longer. Let's see, it's about 60 pages. I probably have like 20 more pages to go, I think, of it. I have no idea where it's gonna go. But I can't believe, for a short story collection, how fleshed out these characters are, how real and engaged and grounded they are. They are real people. You can't tell me otherwise. They are truly their own creations and entities, and it is truly, truly amazing to read this. I'm having such a wonderful time. All I want to do is read it, honestly. When I sit down to read this, I'm not moving. I am so razor sharp focused when I open this book, which is amazing for me. Sometimes, despite being a big reader, I get very antsy and I get very fidgety, but not with this. I sit down and I don't move. I forget I have a body. I am so transported, and I'm seeing these characters, I'm seeing these worlds. The last two stories have specifically taken place in the French Quarter in New Orleans. This book was published in 2006, and I will say the story that I'm currently reading, The Unfinished Novel, definitely has some very interesting body descriptions, specifically around a fat character, and it's very interesting because it's written from a male perspective. And we're even told in this story that this character Maxwell, who we're reading from, describes women in very shallow, insipid ways. His perspective is incredibly biased and very shallow and superficial, but that is the way that he writes women. And so we're reading this story that he's written, or it's in his head or wherever, but we've already been told this information. So do with that information what you will, but just be warned that there is a lot of description of almost like fat-phobic, fat shaming in this The Unfinished Novel story from a male POV, and it's about a woman's body, so be cautious going into that. Overall though, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I cannot believe it. The third story in here was called Beethoven, and it followed a early 20s woman who is dating an older artist, and what it's like to be living in this kind of squalor and this poverty with somebody who doesn't gain a lot of traction, doesn't gain a lot of popularity, is just okay with living in this starving artist period forever, and kind of grappling with the understanding of like, I think I'm okay with that. I think I'm okay with somebody not reaching their fullest potential or pushing harder to be in that capitalistic society of selling out. It's very interesting conversations in here about being an artist in all the different mediums, whether it's painting, acting, directing, teaching. I love it. I absolutely love it. And this book only has like not a lot of reviews on Goodreads or not a lot of ratings. Not a lot of people have marked it as read. So I'd love for more people to get their hands on this. I think it's criminally underrated, truly. So I'm having a wonderful time with this. I will take you all along with me to Toronto tomorrow. I'm very excited. I hope you all are doing really, really well. And I'll check in with you soon, hopefully when I finish the unfinished novel. So it's a very chatty vlog, obviously. Winston and I are here to unwrap some book mail that I received while I was out. I placed an order on Thrift Books because I was unable to find books at my library, let alone Barnes & Noble, where I have gift cards to. Oh my gosh, here it is. A floppy paperback, Nights in the Circus by Angela Carter. A little gift card in there. Thank you, Thrift Books. Oh my gosh. And it's annotated. I'm so excited to read this. Wonderful, absolutely exciting. Yes, my travels were so busy. I got to hang out with a wonderful friend that I haven't seen in a long, long time. And she made me a bookmark, friends. This is a little bookmark that she crocheted. Look at how cute. I adore her. She gave me some stickers. It was so nice to see her. We met in art school, so this is just like absolutely amazing that she put this together. But oh my gosh, it perfectly fits. I have the best friends ever, seriously. But Toronto was amazing. It was so exhausting. It was driving for 8 hours in less than 20 hours. So I was only there for like 20 hours in the city, but it was amazing. I freaking love Toronto. It was absolutely amazing. I'm not quite done with the unfinished novel and other stories, but I'm on the second to last story right now, which is following a lesbian couple named Edith and Isabel. And Edith is a poet. I'm not quite sure what Isabel does yet. I love all the different art references in the communities, but there's definitely some envy and jealousy and miscommunication and lack of trust in this relationship. Not to mention that they're both completely different people. Isabel's very free-spirited and Edith has had way more of a traumatic childhood that's really impacted her relationships now. But they've been together for 10 years and I'm loving it. This is such a lovely collection of short stories, my friends. I cannot tell you. I also wanted to talk briefly about the audiobook that I'm currently listening to. I'm reading a book called Happy Hour. And this is about wayward women, young women once again, and it's very reminiscent to me of 1960s Czechoslovakian film called Daisies, which is all about these two young women. It's a silent film, very surrealist, very bizarre. And it's this film about two young women who basically get to live a completely like rent-free life because men just keep taking care of them and buying them dinner and buying them tickets to things, and they just get away with so much. And it's calculated, but it's also a mindset of like, yeah, why not? Like, if you're offering, why not pay for everything? But what I'm curious about, I feel like I would have a completely different experience reading this book if I was visually reading it rather than listening to it, because I feel like this audiobook narrator actually takes so many liberties. What is this? Is this vacuum sealed? Is this a vacuum sealed book in cardboard? I cannot get it out. Let's see here. I don't want to hurt the book. But I feel like the audiobook narrator takes a lot of liberties with the delivery of these lines. Her cadence is very much like a Valley Girl kind of stereotype. So instead of a sentence being like, bro, I still can't get this out. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, there we go. Let's say the sentence is, when we walked into the bar, I was surprised that so many men bought us drinks. So if that was written, I walked into a bar and I was surprised that so many men wanted to buy us drinks. But the audiobook narrator would say, as we walked into the bar, I was surprised at how many men wanted to buy us drinks. See the difference? Do you see the difference? So I'm having a very big internal battle because I have no chill and I don't know how to not analyze things. Oh my gosh, here we have The Crab Nebula. This is by Eric Chevillard, translated by Jordan Stump and Eleanor Hardin. This is actually a book that I saw in Ann Arbor when my dad and I were visiting, and I literally have a vlog about it, but I have not been able to get this book out of my head. They had a used edition there, and I just could not bring myself to spend that amount of money on like a weathered, nice, maybe first edition. This is a very, very underrated, bizarre book, but a postmodernist novel par excellence. Parodies literary conventions, deconstructs narrative and meaning, and brilliantly combines absurdity and hopelessness with irony and humor. My type of book. I'm so excited. But back to Happy Hour. So what's interesting is like I'm having a really, really hard time because I tend to overanalyze things and I question my own thinking. I'm trying really, really hard not to be so judgmental about this audiobook narrator, but it's very, very challenging. And I like to be challenged in that way. Like, let's get over this like internalized misogyny that's just in society, that if someone speaks a certain way, they're automatically deemed as like less intelligent. Let's get rid of that first. But my thing is mainly, I'm so curious as to like the intention. Was that the author's intention? Did the author hand select this narrator and she was like, yes, this is exactly the voice of this character. So if I was visually reading the book, I would be interpreting it way more as like, I'm an intelligent person. I know that my pretty privilege is affecting me, but I'm just going to take advantage of it because the story follows two young women bouncing around New York from London, where they're not from, and just like getting free stuff, getting free meals, getting free drinks, not having jobs, not having to work, and it's pretty privilege. It's a young, pretty privilege. Being at the right place at the right time, taking advantage of certain opportunities. Oh my gosh, here it is. Sadegh by Johan like a Home, translated by Saskia Vogel. The UK edition is so much prettier, and I was really scouting and debating buying the UK edition, but there was this beautiful used copy already on Thrift Book, so I am a cheaper, frugal gal. And I love a good deal. I think all three of these books together were like 20 bucks. I'm so excited! Yes! We love thrift books. We love used books. This is fabulous. But anyway, the conundrum I find myself in right now is like, I just want to know the intention of the author and this audiobook narrator. It really does just feel like a lot of liberties were taken, and I just really want to know the intention behind this intonation, the undulation of this person's voice as they're narrating this book. It is just so different, and it doesn't really feel as it was written. If I was visually reading this book, I would have a completely different experience. I'd be like, oh my gosh, yes, a wayward 20-year-old woman. She's taking advantage of the system and having like this beautiful, lovely life. And with this other narrator, it just feels very naive and like very youthful and childish of like, I don't know the impact that I make, and like I can just get away with whatever I want, blah, blah, blah. It's just very different. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? I really hope that makes sense in a very non-offensive way, because I really am analyzing my interpretation of things and like why I feel a certain way about it. I just mainly want to know the intention so bad. So I'm struggling with this audiobook. It's very challenging for me to listen to. I feel like I would have a much better time reading it rather than listening to it. So I'm gonna wrap it up here, and I'll check in with you with a new vlog soon when I finish the unfinished novel and we can start a new book together. If you want to comment something and you don't know what to comment, we have the blind owl, so let's definitely do some like birds. I don't know if there's an owl emoji or not, but there's anything bird-like. And then for the unfinished novel, we definitely have to do some art stuff. There's painting, we can do some books because there are so many authors in here, reference to the novel. But yeah, thank you so very much for being here, friends. This was a much more chatty vlog than I've had in a while, so I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to know your thoughts. But I can't wait to see you all again very soon for my next video. Until then, stay cozy, my friends. Bye!